Hello again, everybody. My name is John D. Healy. I do a podcast. It's called It's Good to Talk. I got involved in podcasting because of this book by Stoney McGurn, my friend. It was born in 1941. We produced it just before COVID, and it's on audio and it's also on Amazon. And you should buy it now before it's banned. My sponsors are Liffey Van Lines, a moving company here in New York City. When it comes to moving, let Liffey do the lifting. And I do want to give a shout out to Bolt Architecture. Ibrahim Greenwich was on my podcast, and he just used Liffey a few days ago to move his office. But thanks to Liffey, they did the lift, and he's very happy with his move. And he does have a new book coming out, so I will have Ibrahim Greenwich, I will have him on in the new year, hopefully. Also give a shout out to Paddy McCarthy of the Irish Examiner USA. It's a great newspaper, giving lots of news here in New York about all the events on this side of the world. It's a great paper for local news, good paper for music events. And indeed, Paddy McCarthy probably will have stuff on this week, because another legend died in Ireland, Dickie Rock, who played with the famous Miami show band. And they were murdered tragically by the British Army back in the Troubles time in the 60s. He did go on to represent Ireland in the Eurovision Song Contest in 1966 with a song, let me see what's the name of the song, Come Back to Stay. That's what I was thinking about here when I was trying to have a guest on, a lady from heaven, Ietta Petti, and she'll be with me at some point on a podcast. She was one of the contestants in the Small Business Challenge. So I'm going to get to the Small Business Challenge. It was on last week, and that is sponsored by Dime Bank. So the program was opened by Rob Walsh, good friend of mine for many years now. He's involved with the Bronx Economic Development Borough in the Bronx, and he was also the former New York Small Business Services Commissioner, and he's also an anchorman with 10 wins, big into small business. Dodson is the vice president of the Dime Community Bank, and I like Dime Bank because they have a great history. Back in the day, was the first bank in New York where anybody could open a savings account or a checking account for just a dime. So he was there, needless to say, he was one of the adjudicators. Dr. Susan Parrish, she's the president of Mercy College, she was also an adjudicator, and Andrew Reggie was also. And so they were the three adjudicators. Vanessa Gibbons, she is the Bronx Borough president, and between you and me, little secret here for us all, she's in the running to be possibly the next mayor of New York City. Wouldn't that be exciting? I'm going to move on to the finalists. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4. So I'm going to give you a profile of the 4 of them. Well, who do you think deserves the $10,000 prize from Dime Bank? The other runners-up got some money as well, take away, and they all got certificates. So I'll start at the top and work down. The first one is called Fix It with Piggy, and that was presented by the owner of the company. Her name is not Piggy, but it was her nickname, she tells us, Ashanda Kulshiras. And Fix It with Piggy is a tech company based in the Bronx with a mission to empower youth by teaching young people how to learn the technology. And she got into it at the beginning with being a tech repair person, like someone when you go into AT&T or Apple to get your phone fixed, and someone like Piggy takes it off you and walks away and has it fixed in a few minutes. I wish I had her now to get some technology working for me. So the company is in education and works with city programs and all that. The next lady is Julie Bramovitz, and she has a wine bar here on the Upper East Side, and the wine is unique because it's mostly made by ladies, and it seems like a big feature in celebrating female excellence in wine education and other aspects of women in business. So she was here from Manhattan. The next one is called Obvious Solutions, and this is by Chris Forensic, and he is like a DIY guy, do-it-yourself guy, and he brought a lot of his equipment there, ideas for, especially in the world of painting and decorating, or if you're a do-it-upper or a fixer-upper yourself, you don't want to leave your roller at the end of the day full of paint and unusable again. So you had all kinds of gadgets to clean the roller, put it into a tube like you eat your Pringles out of, and airtight lock it, and it's for use again very soon. He also has distribution rights for a gadget called Matey Measure, which is a tool for accurate measurements in difficult spaces. So at some point he will be on this podcast too, and he'll bring his products, okay? Obvious Solutions. Moving on to Harlem Heaven Hats, and that was there presented by Ietta Petti, and she brought along a selection of hats, and this idea started from the creation of ladies that lose their hair due to chemotherapy and cancer, and an interesting concept indeed, and she had a collection of the hats there for people suffering with hair loss. She was put through the grill by the judges. In particular, Richard Dobson asked her, is a man's head bigger than a woman's head? Well, sometimes I would say. But apparently the woman's head is more normal, is that the right word? We'll take it normal. So men can have a bigger head or a smaller head, but she is able to just put the puts a bowl on top of your head and measures around the circumference to measure a hat for you. She had a selection of hats there as well, and all good. So those are Fix It with Piggy, Bar Florine, the Wine Lady, Obvious Solutions, and Harlem Heaven Hats. So while I'm talking a bit more about the whole setup, you can have a think, and we'll come back to you at the end to see who you think. Now, who else was there? Gillian Barrett is the marketing and communications lady for the Bronx Borough Council, and I must give a shout out to Gillian today because she's in a lineup for the Irish Echo Awards newspaper here in New York for years, probably 50 years, and they have an event called Under 40, so I assume Gillian is well under 40. She looks like she's 20, so she's more than qualified to be under 40 Women's Award, and we wish her well. It's on in February. Myself and the Liffey team will be there to shout her on because the name with Gillian Barrett, we have to shout for her, of course, and we wish her well. So some friends of mine came along. Tom Sanchez is from the United Print Group, and he was on this podcast too. So when it comes to branding for your products, and Tom met all of the 4 finalists, offering his ideas like something like a simple as this pen. You can see it's designed like a carpenter's pen, so it doesn't roll off your desk. A lot of bars I frequent, they keep asking me for pens so they don't roll off when you're paying with your debit card or credit card. And then my other friend was there, was Steve Antonovitz, and he's from a company called Mystic Cyber. And on the way down, before we had about a half an hour to kill, and Steve said to me, "Oh, there's the Year In. It's a famous bar here in New York City. It's on 326 Spring Street." He said, I want a burger, I want a burger. I said, "Steve, you're acting like a 10-year-old. I said, "Okay, come on, and go in, we'll get a burger." So he was delighted to get his burger, and I got a pint. And then after the show, I went back to meet some of the characters, because the bar has been there since 1817. And when it was originally there, and is still there, it was only 5 feet from the Hudson River. Indeed, ships came from all over the world to dock right in front of the bar, and sailors would go in and enjoy their drinks. And it had other reputations as well. I think there was a room upstairs for if you got lucky, or maybe it was a brothel. I don't know. I don't know those things. I'm not supposed to know those things. But I know one thing, they have a good pint of Guinness. I met a couple of characters there, Steve and Gary, and they were updating me on the history of the bar. And it's made of wood. It's original since the 1817. Characters come from everywhere. Doctors and lawyers, and I'm sure some of the people from 1010 Wins come there. So we had our burger there, and Tom Sanchez came along afterwards too, and we had enjoyed the evening after 1010 Wins there. Rob Walsh did a great presentation, and indeed Vanessa Gibbons gave a great presentation, and the gentleman from Dime Bank had the big money to spend. So who do you think won out of the 4 finalists? Well, they were all winners indeed. So let me go back over them for you. Fix It With Piggy is the technology company for fixing mobile phones and stuff like that for young children. The Wine Lady is Julie Bramovitz, Upper East Side, white wine. I don't know why I say white wine. She has blonde hair, I guess. And it's wine made by winemakers, artists, musicians, and more, and lots of regular events as well. And Obvious Solutions, he was there with all his hardware from his garage for keeping your paint job easy and clean. And lastly, but not least, Harlem Heaven Hats. Ietta Petti was there, and she displayed all her good stuff, hats designed for people with recovering, should I say, with chemotherapy. So who do you think was the winner? Meanwhile, I'm going to ask Jimmy to sing a song for us, and then I'll come back and tell you the winners. So Jimmy, you can sing a song for us today. Some people like Caledonia, some people like the Bright Blue Rose. So Jimmy's going to sing a song, and I'll come back. Jimmy, come on. The youth of today. Anyways, he'll sing a song, and I'm going to come back and tell you who the winner was.
Last night I dreamed you were back again, larger than life again, holding me tight again, placing those same kisses on my brow, sweeter than ever now. Lord, I remember how couldn't get enough of kissing. Do you know how much you're missing? No, you don't, but I do. The days like a slow train trickle by, and even the words that I write refuse to fly. All I can hear is your song haunting me. Can't get the melody out of my head, you see. Distractions are amusing. Do you know how much you're losing? No, you don't, but I do. But I do, and I wonder if I'm past the point of rescue. Is no word from you at all the best that you can do? Never meant to push or shove you. Do you know how much I love you? No, you don't, but I do. I swore I'd never fall like this again. Fools like me never win. Came to my knees again. Can't close the door on a likelihood. Things might be just as good. I always believed they would. Gotta let your love invite me. Baby, do you think it might be? No, you don't, but I do. But I do, and I wonder if I'm past the point of rescue. Is no word from you at all the best that you can do? Never meant to push or shove you. Do you know how much I love you? No, you don't, but I do. I know you don't, but I do. I know you don't, but I do.
Way to go, Jimmy. Two of the finalists with me today, and that's important. That'll be interesting. I'll get to Ietta and Chris in a minute. So who did I leave out? I left out Nick. Of all the people from the Liffey Van Lines Moving and Storage Company, my company where I put so much time and effort into, he was a winner too. What did he win? He won a $120 voucher for a Michelin Award restaurant, and the owner was there. Who's the owner? Joe Caletta Porto Salvo restaurant. That's way up in the Bronx. I think it's on 161st Street. I'll have to check it out. Michelin Award. That's pretty good. So where I left off, I promised you I'd have Chris on. I promised you I'd have Ietta on. I'm going to start with Ietta. Ietta, tell us your story. I know you went to the Fashion Institute in New York, but tell me more about you first, and then hats. Ietta?
Well, I graduated from FIT, the Fashion Institute. I started working in corporate fashion behind the scenes. I worked as an assistant buyer for a few years and putting together mail order catalogs because that was before people were shopping on the internet. That was before the internet. All of my career working behind the scenes, I've always designed just for fun, just for myself. So I would make these quirky little hats and wear them to my corporate job, and everybody loved them. They always got so much attention anywhere that I went. So my dear aunt got this idea. She said, let's do a pop-up down in Soho. There's all these markets. Just make up a few of those hats and let's see what happens. So I did a market one weekend and my hats sold out immediately. Just so fast. So I started doing these markets on the weekend and I was making more money than my corporate job. So I ended up quitting my corporate fashion job and I became a full-time hat maker, and I am self-taught. I have a degree in fashion, but it is not in millinery. So I never intended to be in the hat business. So it's really interesting how your career can take a turn.
Well,
So after being in Soho for about 5 years,
I'm just saying you're a really creative person.
a bigger space.
You're
And
very
that's
creative.
how I ended up in Harlem. I moved uptown because there's so many churches and so many opportunities for more customers.
Churches are good, of course, and they cost money too. And the richest people in Harlem are, maybe you don't know this, maybe you're one of them, pastors and pimps. They're the guys with cash. Harlem has a lot to offer, to say the least, and beautiful churches, no doubt.
Yes.
Now, you're a very creative lady, to say the least.
Absolutely.
But where did the creativity is contagious? So where did your creativity come from? Was it from your aunt, your mother, or did you just wake up and say, I must design hats?
Well, I think it's in the genes. I think I was born with it. I started sewing when I was really, really a little kid. You know, we had that old pedal Singer sewing machine where my little feet barely touched the pedals, and I was making dresses and just all kinds of fun things. And I started making jewelry. You know, I was the kind of kid where I didn't want dolls for Christmas. They would give me, like, you know, handbag making kits and jewelry making kits. they kind of saw that in me very early and they nurtured it. My family was very good with that. So I had an earring business when I was 10 years old. I was selling earrings to my aunt's sorority sisters. So I started really early with this whole design thing. And it has carried me through to today. I've had my shop in Harlem for 35 years.
That's creative in itself. The other
Yeah.
aspects to you, there's more to you than just hats. And hats are very important. I mean, kings and queens and popes wear a hat.
Mm-hmm.
Hats
Mm-hmm.
are very important.
Yes.
When we were down at the Tin Win Small Business Challenge with Rob Walsh and Gillian Barrett, of course, I must give a shout out to Gillian because she's going for another award with the Irish Echo newspaper. The guy from the bank, Mr. Dobson, he asked you a strange question. Are men's heads bigger or smaller than a woman's head? And does that change the whole design of designing a hat?
Absolutely. A men's head is usually a bit bigger and they're sized differently. Women, we have a standard size, which is 23 inches. Men are usually about an inch bigger, the normal standard size. And then we size men's hats, small, medium, large, whether it be 22 inches, 23 inches, or 24 inches in diameter. And I had said that if you have an extremely large head or an extremely small head, then you could get something custom made. So I have spent most of my career designing super fancy hats.
Okay.
People wear my hats to the Kentucky Derby. They wear my hats to fancy weddings and receptions and to the Royal Ascot races in England, which I'll tell you about in a little bit because I was there this summer.
Very nice.
So after all these years of, doing these fancy hats, there's something that I always wanted to do. And that was to create beautiful hats for cancer patients and people that have lost their hair. I've had family members that had cancer, and especially my aunt who lost all of her hair from chemo, and there was never the right hat in the marketplace. And I started making these beautiful little hats for her, and they made her so happy. So that was why I had joined the 10 Wins Challenge, because the funding is what I wanted to use to produce this collection of hats for chemotherapy patients. So that's my passion and my focus right now. And I still, of course, design fancy hats. And it's been a whole lot of hard work over the years. And I have been, in Vogue and different magazines, but the pandemic changed the whole face of the business, and it's a struggle now to keep a brick and mortar store. And this summer, it was a wonderful thing that happened to me. I got an email at the beginning of the year that said, I'm writing on behalf of Royal Ascot in England, and we think your hats are showstoppers, and we would like to invite you to England to the Royal Ascot Millinery Collective. When I saw that email, I was like, is this spam? I was really, really shocked and surprised, but it was not spam. It was real. So the Royal Ascot Millinery Collective is a select group of milliners, hat makers from all over the world. They only invite 12 from the entire world. I was the only American and the first black hat maker in history that they've ever invited. Wow. So it's like winning the Oscars in the hat world. So I was there for a week, went to the races for 3 days. Beautiful experience. They put me in the royal section. They call it the royal enclosure, the VIP suite, just wonderful treatment. And the icing on the cake was the trustee at Ascot, Lady Selena Carter. She wore my hat when she greeted King Charles and Queen Camilla on opening day. So it was quite a great experience. And to be recognized internationally and to be in the club with famous, hat designers that designed for the Royals like Stephen Jones and Philip Tracy. So that was a wonderful boost and, just giving me more and more passion to keep pushing forward.
I'll just give a shout out to some podcasts that I've done in the past. One in connection with cancer. I interviewed a scientist here from Sloan Kettering, the Cancer Research Institute here in New York City, and that's worth checking out. Declan Murphy is a famous Irish jockey, and he raced in all of those racetracks all over the world. and some of your hats may have popped up there. There's a great picture of a horse eating the flowers of one of your hats. I don't know if you've seen that, but it's quite funny. The horse walked up to the lady and he's eating the beautiful decoration on the hat. And you probably sat on one of my friend's seats because she was always there. That would be Queen Elizabeth. She was
Wow.
She owned horses and she attended all the races. So we have something in common.
Yeah.
Getting back to you.
Yes.
Where's your story?
One of my fun experiences was meeting a lot of the owners and the jockeys at the, they call it a bit of tailgating, but it was the most glamorous tailgating I've ever seen, where they have their own food trucks and they're parked in front of Bentleys. But I met a wonderful owner, Connor from Ireland, and it was just a really, really fun experience to meet. I met jockeys and owners, so it was awesome.
They're a fun bunch. They're a really fun bunch. They're very happy, outgoing. If you think of some sports that are competitive, it's the guy and the horse. The horse has to be good. The guy has to be good. The has to be good. So it's back to creativity and genius. And I'd say you have both. Now tell us, before I move on to my next guest on the show, and he's waiting for me, Chris, Ietta, where and how do people get in touch with you if we need to buy a hat for any occasion? It could be St. Patrick's Day. Well, are you seasonal type designer?
Yes. So I have hats for all seasons and all occasions. My store in Harlem, it's called Harlem's Heaven Hat Shop, and we're on Adam Clayton Powell, right at the corner of 147th Street, 2538 Adam Clayton Powell. And also my website is harlemsheaven.com, Harlem, HarlemsHeaven.com. So browse the website or come and visit us in Harlem. We'd love to see you. And I have a hat for you, ladies and gentlemen.
I'm sure either one would look good at me. Thank you, because my mother told me hats don't care who wears them. Anyways, you'll have to make a big hat for me. So thank you for being on It's Good to Talk. That's the name of my podcast. I'm John D. Healy. And if people like this podcast, they can subscribe for free and learn more about your story and my next story with Chris, and indeed Declan Murphy, the jockey from Ireland that survived falling off a horse, where the horse trampled on him and left him for dead. And miraculously, heaven came along and saved his life. He's always listening. He'll be happy with this podcast too. Now, let me leave you, Ietta. If you have to run away, run away. Chris, you were a finalist in the 10-10 Wins finalists. Tell me about you and your career and how you started into your painting business. You got the floor.
Well, okay. I got started when an attorney asked me to get involved with an inventor who was pretty ingenious with all of his ideas. So we ended up patenting the first two items, which were the airtight roller keeper, which is airtight. This allows you to store roller covers wet with paint. You put the roller in, squeeze the grips on the side, pull out the frame, close the top, name, date, and color, and these will stay for months at a time. These are excellent for homeowners. These are excellent for paint contractors, any kind of an institutional type building like apartments, because you can use the roller today. Months later, you need to do a touch-up. You can take it out and use it. Contractors with sealing white, primer, stain blocker, they can go from job to job to job and never clean the rollers. We have people in the UK using these that have used them for months and months and months and never had to clean out a roller. So that's the airtight roller keeper.
Next product
is the roller squeegee. The roller squeegee allows you to take up to a cup of paint off a roller without touching it. You just put it around the roller, push down, and you'll remove up to 1 cup of paint without touching the roller. You can do it a few times. It's almost clean when you're finished. Then you can take this under a faucet, in a bucket, wash it, never get your hands dirty or wet. Also, it's made out of a rounded material so that when you do scrape the paint off, you do not damage the roller now. Nothing like this is on the market. It's a fantastic tool. Works with any size roller now. Okay, next item. We have made to measure. patented product. This clips onto a tape measure. So if you're trying to measure inside of a window frame, this will clip on, slide it across the tape to the edge. When you take the tape out, it gives you the exact measurement that you need. So you're not kind of guessing where the tape curves.
Okay.
Fantastic tool, terrific reviews. People love them. Also, we have another unique product. This is called the chalk shot. The chalk shot, if you ever tried to get a pencil through a 2x4 or something and then make a circle, you can't reach in. This here, you just put it into the hole, push the can, green chalk shoots to the spot where you need to drill a hole. And terrific item. We sell tons of those. The next tool we have is the painter's cup. The painter's cup is unique in that this product will allow you to do your trim work, and it has a place to put your paintbrush so that you can fill this cup up all the way. Cups with magnets you can't fill up because your brush would get too much paint on it.
Correct.
So this has a brush holder. You fill the cup up, use the paint that you need. This will also hook onto a bucket. You just put it on the bucket. So now you can have a bucket of paint with this and nothing else like it on the market. Very unique.
That is unique.
The last product we have is the Cyclone. The Cyclone will take old paint and turn it into new paint. Special design. It has a rounded bottom. You can get to the bottom of the can and it will not damage the can. And it has vortex. It creates a vortex. The way these holes are drilled, there's a vortex that's created.
Okay, do you connect the drill to it?
You hook it to a drill, and it'll spin in the bucket.
So you have to hook it up to your drill.
The best, yes, you hook it up to the drill.
You put it into the caned can, and then it'll rotate.
Yes.
And that's good for old paint?
All right, and it creates a vortex, and it'll turn any old paint, into like brand new paint. There's nothing else that will work as good as this product.
So that would be good for stirring paint too. It's good for mixing paint as well. Okay.
Mixing paint, plaster, all types of liquids that have to be stirred. This is terrific, made out of stainless steel.
Okay. All right. I assume they're all made in the USA. Thank you for the product line. I assume they're all made in the USA.
Roller Keeper, made in the USA, in New York, and the Painter's Cup is made in the USA.
Okay.
The other products aren't made in the USA.
Let's go for my listeners. And if my listeners like this, they can subscribe. It's for free to subscribe to me. I'm talking to Chris from the 10 Wins Challenge. He was one of the runners up, the finalists. And I did have Ietta on as well from the Harlem Hats. So talk about price, retail price, and where can we buy them?
Okay, you can buy these at Lowe's.com. These are, including the shipping, these sell, I believe, for $12.99 or $11.99. Lowe's.com. You can go to obvioussolutionsInc.com.
That's your website.
Solutions Inc. That's my website.
Okay.
These are available. You can purchase the roller squeegee for the same price. The mating measure is about, I think it's $15.99. And again, you can go to Lowe's.com or obviossolutionsinc.com.
And the mating measure, is that also a measuring tape on its own?
No. This hooks to a measure to a
It's an assistant to a measuring tape.
Slide it across. Yes.
Okay.
There's we have videos on our website. So if you go to our website and click on it, or you go to Lowe's.com and you click on the product, there is demonstration videos of the products, how they work.
That's very good. So did we mention all the prices and the availability? And where can people contact you if they need more information about your product?
Okay. Info@obviossolutionsinc.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you, Chris, for being on. It's good to talk. I'm John D. Healy, and this is my podcast. And I guess that rounds up. I left out one lady, didn't I? Of course. I'm sure you're familiar with this lady. Her name is Miss Gross, the New York Commissioner of Small Business Services. She was at the function last week when we were downtown in 10 Wins, the Small Business 10K Challenge, thanks to Rob Walsh and Gillian Barrett and everyone else involved. It's not an easy event put together, but everyone there enjoyed it, including myself, and that's where I met you and Ietta and indeed some of the other finalists. So I'm going to say goodbye to you now in my native language. I say Slán Abhaile, which means goodbye until we meet again, and Shin Scéal agus Bé Scéal. Until then, thank you. That's the end of this podcast.